Daisy, careful where you go with those pots of caviar. You're almost as fast as Louis Blériot crossing the Channel. Oh, what's the rush anyway?
But Mr. Todger, haven't you heard? Count Trumpmore's dining with Lord and Lady Crancombe. He's a proper count, he is.
Sir, so I've heard. When I read through his lordship's Times yesterday, it claimed that Count Trumpmore is one of the most powerful and influential politicians in the whole country. Apparently he's virtually handpicking the candidates for his party in the next election.
I overheard Lord Crancombe and his mother, Lady Brawley, discussing the counts in the area to interview some prospective candidates for the Scankwell Valley constituency by-election, whatever that means. His lordship thought it would be good to invite the count to dinner this evening, for some reason.
Oh, I think I can guess why. I'll tell you what, Daisy, you put your feet up, I'll take these pots of caviar up there for you.
Well, I have spent all afternoon ironing Lady Brawley's knickers.
No wonder you look exhausted. Oh, off you go, I'll see to his lordship.
So then, just when the Zulus thought they had our boys totally licked, I leapt off the roof, covered in flames. Blood splattered all over the old village and frightened the life out of them. They ran for it like there was no tomorrow. But there was nothing to it, really. To be honest with you, Count Trumpmore, I was quite embarrassed when I was awarded the Gallantry Medal. I am rather loath to mention it these days.
Yes, Cuthbert, you rarely mention it. Perhaps Count Trumpmore would like some more wine. It's the very finest Bordeaux. It's about the one good thing that the French do.
Thank you, Lady Brawley. I was so engrossed in your son's riveting account of his wartime experiences. You must be so very proud of him, Lady Brawley. And you too, Lady Crancombe.
I certainly am, Count Trumpmore.
I am bursting with so much pride, I think I shall soon need a new corset.
Yes, well, that's enough about me. This really is about you, Count Trumpmore, and of course, who you wish to select as your Member of Parliament for Scankwell Valley. You carry so much weight, so to speak, that your endorsement would surely convince the party to give the fellow your backing. Do you have anyone in mind yet?
Well, there are one or two prospective candidates that the constituency party have put forward, and I'll be interviewing each of them again in the morning. But frankly, they are ghastly and totally uninspiring.
I imagine you want someone who is a charismatic figure. Someone who commands respect. Someone who has an impressive record of achievement.
And someone who can show great leadership. Plus, of course, someone of appropriate breeding and substance. Oh, by the way, would you like some more caviar, Count Trumpmore? Todger, my good man, please pass some to the Count. Oh, and perhaps you could also serve us a good helping of quails in aspic.
Certainly, my lords.
Oh, Lord Crancombe, you're much too kind. Do you know something? When I was listening to you telling us about your valiant leadership in the Zulu War, and indeed in the Boer War, it set me thinking. Have you ever considered politics?
Me? Oh, heaven forbid. It had never crossed my mind. I seek no reward nor recognition for what I do. If I can make this great country of ours just that bit better, and if I can help us stand up for what's right and for what this country believes in, that is reward enough for me. But of course, if at some stage in the future the call came, I certainly would not shrink from the battle. I never have, and I never will.
How noble of you. Lady Crancombe, Lady Brawley, would you excuse me while I spend a bit of time one-to-one with your husband? I've got something very important to discuss with him.
Come in.
Oh, Mr. Arson, I'm so sorry to trouble you. I haven't disturbed anything, have I?
No, my girl. What is it? You look rather perplexed.
Well, sir, what with you being the head butler and knowing about lots of things, I was hoping you might be able to give a young lady a bit of a hand.
Oh, I'm very happy to do that. Which young lady are you thinking about?
It's me, Mr. Arson. I'm the one that needs help.
Well, what sort of help do you need? I know you've been seen fraternising with that brass band chap from the village. I know what goes on, you know. Todger said something about you helping the chap polish his bugle.
I'm frightened he might break it off.
Oh, dear.
The young man, Dickie Cleghorn, is thinking of giving up his band work. Looks like he might be going to London. I is worried about what might happen to him.
Well, my dear, it's quite understandable that a young man feels lured to the possibility of fame and fortune in our capital. Since the 1908 Olympics, London's become a lot more glamorous. Mind you, between you and me, I think it will soon wear off, and we'll never see the Olympic Games held in London ever again. Anyway, what's Dickie going to do in London?
Well, he likes his football, he does. And everyone's been saying how good he is at it. And now some man from London's asked him to go down there for a trial to see if he can become a professional footballer.
Oh, don't believe all this talk of top players in the future earning up to £5 a week. Won't happen. And there aren't any good football clubs in London. All the best association football's played up in the north. Mind you, the Royal Engineers were a damn good team, and Corinthian Casuals are a rather splendid bunch of chaps. If he joins them, he might do okay.
No, it's a club called Woolwich Arsenal.
What? That bunch? Oh, their name has always made me laugh for a start. Sounds like a cross between a building society and a garrison. I do know quite a bit about football, and Daisy and I can't see them lasting more than a few seasons. And it's certainly a long way to go just to play for a bunch of amateurs.
Well, is there anyone who you think he should play for? If he could earn a bit of money doing what he loves to do, it'd be smashing.
Well, there is that club in Manchester, United. Yes, that's it, Manchester United. They've opened a new ground, Old Trafford they call it. Sounds like a right tip. They seem to think they might attract as many as a few thousand people on a Saturday afternoon. Can't see it myself, mind you. I reckon they'll be lucky to attract 2 men and a dog. No, when I come to think about it, if your Dickie really wants to get ahead, there's only one club for him. Accrington Stanley.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Arson. I'll tell Dickie. I really does appreciate your wisdom, Mr. Arson.
That's what I'm here for, Daisy. Always happy to help the younger generation. I had a young lad last week ask me some advice about his cricketing ability. So I watched him in a match on the village green. Afterwards I said, "No, son, I hate to tell you, but you're never going to make it. You'll be lucky if you ever land up even carrying the drinks around for the old Craptonian second 11. Well, he was disappointed at first, but I always tried to be constructive, so I said, "I reckon you've got the makings of a damn good stable boy. We might even have a vacancy next month. So if you want to earn 2pence a week in a nice cushy job for 70 hours, Monday to Sunday, you just come and see your friend Mr. Arson." You know what he did then? He gave me a slip of paper with his name on. Jack Hobbs. And he said, "I won't forget that, Mr. Arson. I won't forget that."
You really are a guardian angel, Mr. Arson. Sooner I get hold of Dickie, the better. Good night, sir.
Good night, Daisy. Good night, my dear.
Well, darling, you certainly seem to have a firm impression on the Count over dinner. How did your private meeting go?
Exactly as I planned, dear. I had him eating out of my hand. The only concern he had was if I was ruthless enough for the political bun fights ahead. But when I told him I was about to fire Todger the butler and kick his backside all over the Yorkshire moors because of his slovenly service and because of that indiscretion before he left the dining room, I think that clinched it. Oh, he belched like a bloated warthog.
Oh, yes, that was awful. And in front of the Count as well. It was probably the first time in the 500-year history of Downcast Abbey that someone had the audacity to do that in the dining room. Apart from your mother.
Anyway, Count Trumpmore told me the candidature is mine and I will be representing his party in next month's by-election.
Oh, how do you think it will go, Cuthbert?
It will be an absolute piece of cake. With a 16,000 majority, I can hardly fail. And then, once I get to Westminster, that clause in my late Uncle Egbert's last will and testament will be triggered off, and 300,000 shiny £1 notes will be making their way into our bank account. I'm not just a pretty face, am I, darling?
No, you're certainly not.
Ah, Todger, my good man. Take a seat. There's no easy way to put this, but I've needed to talk to you.
I needed to talk to you too, sir.
Oh? Why?
I found your war stories absolutely fascinating, Lord Crankham.
Yes, well, I'm always reticent to bring up such matters, but the Count raised the subject.
Well, he could hardly fail to notice the medals pinned in your jacket, sir.
Todger, how dare you be so impudent? But at least you are making my job easy. I was a bit reluctant to have a word with you, but now I can hardly wait.
Oh, nor can I, sir. I'm absolutely intrigued.
Intrigued? What do you mean?
Well, and I hope you will forgive me, but I couldn't help overhearing the amazing story of your exploits in the Boer War, and indeed the Zulu War, sir. Especially the bit where you leapt off the roof of the storeroom, totally unarmed, with flames soaring up to the sky from your body, and your face covered in blood. Oh, it really is most remarkable to hear that story.
I try to play it down.
I'm not surprised, sir, because it is a totally different story to the one I read.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm a great one for history, I am, sir. And I read the fully transcripted account of events at Rorke's Drift by Lieutenant Percival Grimmett. He certainly did mention that someone leapt off the roof of the storeroom.
Well, there you are then.
He said that the person who did so soon got a spear up his jacksie.
Yes, well, it was a bit painful. But I quickly pulled it out and carried on after those Zulus.
It wouldn't have been very easy, sir, would it?
What do you mean?
Well, according to the book I read, that bloke who jumped off the roof also had a spear right through his bonds. And I see no scars on your forehead, sir.
Well, he must be mistaken.
Well, if he was, sir, so were the other 5 accounts that I read. Although, I do also recall reading about the officer they found afterwards, crouched behind the barrels in the latrines. Funny enough, sir, the description of him sounds rather like yourself.
This is preposterous! Fabrication! Total lies!
Well, if it was, sir, then it's not the only those 5 men who have lied about their commanding officer. I've read his citations, sir. In fact, and at no inconsiderable expense, I have a copy printed and in my possession.
What? Oh, I see your game.
Do you, sir? Anyway, what is it you wanted to speak to me about, sir?
Well, it was just that, of course, I do appreciate your loyal, tremendous work here at Downcast Abbey, and I just felt that it should be adequately rewarded. Indeed, your special qualities deserve special recognition. Loyalty and, of course, discretion are valuable attributes, don't you think, Todger?
Of course, sir. Valuable indeed. And how do you propose showing recognition of such qualities, sir?
Well, I thought that perhaps an increase in your emolument of 2 whole pennies per month would...
Oh, you do have a sense of humour, sir. I do admire that in a man. Anyway, I think I'll be off now. I want to get those papers out and show them to some friends of mine. Possibly even to show them...
Yeah, I meant per day, of course. 2 pennies extra per day. But for that, of course, I expect to see and keep the item of proof. Can you bring it to my room by 6 p.m. this evening, just before supper?
Oh, I think I could do, sir. It's always a pleasure doing business with such a gentleman as you.
Ah, Snodgrass. How are you, and how are things on the farmstead?
Oh, that is fine, your lordship. All is going tickety-boo.
Well, that's not what I've heard. I'm rather concerned about the output from our estate. And of course I'm anxious about the welfare of you and your families on the farm. Have you thought of fertilisation?
Oh, it does quite a bit of that, my lord.
That's not what I mean. Basically, I feel you should be looking into more efficient methods of running the farm. Times are changing, Snodgrass, and we really must increase our revenue, or I will have to reduce your wages. Have you any ideas about bringing in new methods to increase output?
Well, my lord, things such as organic chemistry, pestle fungicide entomological analysis, hybrid seed quantification and insect-specific herbicide agroforestry is all double Dutch to me, sir. But what do you think?
Yes, no. Just keep getting as much as you can out of the cows and the swine.
Oh, always does that, sir. It ain't easy getting them back to work. And them animals is just as bad as well.
Oh, I'm suddenly feeling very tired. Just make sure that whatever you do, you maximise the output from those animals. And those buffaloes too.
Bullocks, your lordship.
Oh, Mr. Mates, you startled me. I didn't expect to find you in Lady Lucy's room.
Oh, I was just carrying out a security check. One can't be too careful these days. Crime is on the increase, you know.
Yes, Mr. Mates. There's been some more burglaries in the village this week. You had be better careful yourself because you seem to go there quite a lot these days.
Yes, Fanny. I have some old friends there.
What's that behind your back, Mr. Mates?
I'm glad you asked me that. I've admired how hard you work here at Downcast Abbey, and I don't think you get enough recognition. Here is a little gift for you from me.
Oh, Mr. Mates, that's a lovely necklace. Nobody's ever bought me a gift like that before. Wait till I tell Mrs. P.
Oh, no, don't do that. This is a personal and private gift. It wouldn't do to tell anybody else. You know how tongues wag around here. Besides, we wouldn't want any of the other staff to get jealous or anything like that.
No, I guess we wouldn't.
And certainly don't wear it here at Downcast Abbey. Lady Lucy and her family would think it very unseemly for any of their staff to be outshining them, as you surely would.
Oh, that's lovely of you to say that is. All right, then. I'll keep it as our little secret.
Oh, good girl. Oh, what are these, Fanny?
Oh, you're making me blush now, Mr. Mates. These are some new outfits for Lady Lucy. The finest hosiery that money can buy.
Oh, let me, just take these off you. You mustn't tire out your pretty little arms, must you? My word, these really are splendid. So silky as well. Heavenly to touch.
Are you feeling okay, Mr. Mates?
Oh, yes, Fanny. It's just that my family have always taken an interest in textiles. And my mother was also a seamstress.
I'm impressed, Mr. Mates. Anyway, I'd better get on with sorting them out, as Lady Lucy will no doubt be anxious to try them on soon. She's been invited to the grand ball at Lord Mothchild's estate next week, and I know Lord and Lady Crankham are anxious for her to look her very best.
I'm sure they do, Fanny, I'm sure they do.
With times getting hard, I know that his lordship wanted everybody here to make do and mend, but Lady Crankham talked him into allowing Lady Lucy to replenish her wardrobe, particularly as she's grown rather big up top.
Yes, I had noticed.
And her hips are rather more fulsome too.
Yes, I noticed that too. These are indeed magnificent garments. I have an idea, Fanny. When Lady Lucy is not wearing them, why don't you keep them in the drawer under lock and key?
Oh, that's a good idea. But I don't know how to go about that, and we're very short of staff.
Oh, don't worry about it at all, Fanny. I will make the necessary arrangements. I will even fit the lock myself and give you a key.
Oh, that would be much appreciated, Mr. Mates. I just hope I don't lose that key.
In which case I shall personally keep a spare, just in case you ever need it.
You really are so very thoughtful, Mr. Mates. Now, you take care, especially when you next go into the village. There are some very unscrupulous people about.
Indeed there are, Fanny. Indeed there are.
I see that fellow Jack Hobbs has scored another double century for England on tour.
Yes, Mother, but it was only against Australia. Those chaps really have not got a clue about playing cricket.
Yes, darling, but they're only convict chappies.
They're a bit more than that.
Yes, some of them do a lot of things with sheep as well.
I think it's very noble of our gentlemen cricketers to go out there to show them how to play the game. Maybe they will become rather good at it one day.
I doubt it. I can't see them beating us for 100 years or so. Anyway, I have far more important things to attend to. I desperately need to get a more up-to-date automobile for my election campaign. Arson drove me through the village yesterday. I saw people sneering. It looked so ugly and ungainly.
Yes, I suppose Arson is getting well past it.
No, Mother, I meant the car. I think it's time to get rid of that old tin-pot Thornycroft Tourer.
How about one of those nice new Fords?
I wouldn't dream of it. I'm not buying a car made by some American chap. I doubt if that company will last 5 minutes anyway.
Why, darling?
I have nothing against Henry Ford, per se. He seems a most obliging chap, who has even promised I can have any colour car I like. But it's the tradition of his workforce that worries me. Let me ask you this question, darling. What does the average American working man traditionally do with his hands and his legs?
Put them around American working-class lady.
No, darling. He uses his hands to shoot rifles and his legs to ride horses across the big, wide prairie. As a consequence, he has become an expert at rustling up cattle and shooting redskins in the backside, and that is what he is best equipped to do.
Try telling that to General Custer.
Well, there you are then. I rest my case. The British working man, despite being a bit on the lazy side and trying to cut his working hours to just 65 hours per week, is at least used to working with metal and mechanisms. Yes, give me a traditional British product made by good old British workers any day.
So, are you going to buy this car tomorrow then?
Not tomorrow, Mother. They're on strike again. But once that is over, I shall invest in one of those elegant Rolls-Royce Silver Ghosts. It will get me round Yorkshire much more quickly. They touch up to 30 miles per hour, you know. And I think it will be far more pleasing on the eye for the locals.
I'm sure their eyes will feel very pleased indeed to see you swanning by in that, whilst they trample over the cobbles and through the puddles in their worn-out boots with holes in their soles.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Mother. That settles it then. I'm off to the bank to see the manager.
I'm sure he'll be delighted to see you, bearing in mind how much you owe him.
Mr. Kettleborough will be patting your son's hands, Lady Brawley.
Well, we do go back a long way. The King's Royal Rifle Corps, the Bullington Club, Eton, Bogmore Golf Society, Crackwell Valley Prep School.
I'm surprised you two didn't share a pram together.
It says so much about you, Cuthbert, that you keep such lifelong associations.
That's what happens if you let someone beat you often enough at golf.
Oh, Mr. Mates, fancy bumping into you in the village. Yeah, what are you doing looking in this lady's shop for?
Oh, I'm looking for a new hat for my mother. I thought she would appreciate it for her birthday.
Oh, that is very decent of you, Mr. Mates. Your eye is in the right place, I can see that. Yeah, you're as lucky they've got anything left in this shop. They've had several break-ins recently and a lot of the ladies' clothing has been stolen.
Oh, has it really?
Oh, yes, and not just the dresses. Big pairs of bloomers, too. Now, what sort of villain would want to make off with those sort of garments?
I've no idea, Farmer Snodgrass, I've no idea. Anyway, I understand his lordship's not too happy with lack of revenue from the farm.
There's no lack of output from the Shire horses. Oh, it's taken me in a stable, lads. Good few hours to clear up. So hopefully it'll make them roses grow, then we can maybe sell them in the village. Anything to bring in more money for the Downcast Abbey estate. And a few bob for me. Times is getting hard, you know, and it ain't easy making ends meet. I don't know what else I can do to bring in a few more farthings. Not like the Lord Mothschild's estate. That place is so well stocked with the finest animals. He's even now got a pheasantry.
Has he really?
Oh yes, a lot of them pheasants often fly over our farm.
Do they really? Are there many of them?
Oh yes, hundreds of the buggers.
Do you, by any chance, have a rifle, Farmer Snodgrass?
Oh, since you asked, Mr. Mates, yes, I do still happen to have my trusty old Cragton Strickland double-barrelled rifle that's served me so well in the Boer War. Still keeps it just in case I have any trouble again with an old Boer. Come to think of it, could have used it the other day.
I've got an idea that could possibly just help. I take it you're not averse to sharing the proceeds of any money-making adventure with myself, Farmer Snodgrass?
Well, I know a few extra farthings a week will come in mighty handy, Mr. Mate, so I ain't going to agree to anything unscrupulous or illegitimate. It's beyond reproach.
Well, I think I can get a halfpenny a pheasant, and you can have 50% of it.
Make it 40% and you've got yourself a deal.
Done.
Oh, Mr. Arson, here, have this. A nice bowlful of my piping ox offal and tripe stew.
Oh, that's very kind of you, Mrs. Prattmore, but I've just eaten.
Well, you ain't been in the kitchen this afternoon. I know you ain't. I've been here all that time.
Farmer Snodgrass gave me a very large lump of cheese only about an hour ago. I didn't wish to offend him, so I ate it all.
You're a brave man. I wouldn't eat any produce from his farm. I've heard tales that his animals are all mangy. The sheep are, the pigs are, the cows are, the oxes are.
Bullocks.
No, I believe it's true. He doesn't seem to groom them or anything. Anyway, I won't go on about it. I just wanted to thank you for what it was you said to our Daisy the other day. I know she was very grateful for the advice you gave her that day.
Only too pleased to have helped. I take it she's now got her young Dickie back where he belongs?
No, he jilted her. But at least she saved making a big mistake. That's the way I looks at it. He'll come to no good in London. No, he won't. And I couldn't see Daisy fitting in down there either. All that hustle and bustle.
Oh, yes, I was down there last year. That certainly is an eye-opener. I even went on one of those huge motor omnibuses. I must say they do go really fast. One estimate says they can now do up to 12 miles per hour at full speed.
Oh, that sounds frightening. Here, how many people do they carry on those buses?
Oh, about 30 or 40, I believe. They have one row of people, then another row above.
What? People all on top of each other? Well, you wouldn't get me travelling like that.
No, people above were on a different level. They're called double-decker buses.
Well, that sounds just as frightening. Oh, no, give me the buses pulled by horses any time.
Oh, you might not say that if you happen to be sitting immediately behind the horses. But I know what you mean, Mrs. P. Some of these new-fangled inventions seem to be spelling trouble to me. When I was sitting in the Lion Corner tea shop in London, I overheard two businessmen talking about some blithering idiot called Clarence Birdseye, who claims to have invented frozen food. How absolutely unrealistic is that? What good will that stuff be to anybody?
Well, they'll break their teeth on it for a start.
And if you think that's a dim-witted idea, what about that chap called John Logie Baird? That deluded fool has just invented something he's called television. He says that in the future people will be able to watch a little screen which will show programmes about the day-to-day lives of people living in a street and going into their public house. Oh, could you imagine how boring that would be, Mrs. P? I can't imagine anybody wanting to watch it. Some nincompoop even said that in many years in the future they could even show programmes about singing competitions and people learning to dance. What an absolutely absurd idea.
Oh, progress, eh, Mr. Arson?
Oh, progress indeed. Will today's generation never learn?
Now, talking of learning, we shall soon find out how Lord Crankham got on in the by-election.
Yes, I can't wait to hear. They say the electorate always gets the politicians they deserve. Very soon we shall find out exactly what they did deserve.
So, you got in, then?
Yes, Mother, I got in.
With a rather slim margin?
I sailed home with a double-figure majority, Mother.
Yes. I thought 10 whole votes more than your closest opponent was quite something. You probably wouldn't even have got that if the Bogsworth Colliery miners' Sharabang hadn't taken a wrong turning on the way to the polling booth.
Oh, yes, very unfortunate that. I gather they landed up slithering into the village duck pond.
I can't think where they got their driver from.
Nor can I. I have to hand it to you. Reducing a 16,000 majority to just 10 people really took some doing. Clearly the voters round here didn't identify with you.
I take that with a pinch of salt, Mother. I think they were just afraid of progress. Once they see how I represent them at Westminster and how I really put this county on the map, they will soon warm to me. Just you see, Mother.
Well, they're certainly not feeling very warm towards you at the moment. I gather a load of them were seen waving their fists at you when your chauffeur drove you through the village.
I don't think they were actually shaking their fists, Lady Brawley. I think they were...
It's okay, darling. Mother was right. They were shaking their fists. But in time, I'll have them nodding their heads with approval.
Well, time will tell. Good night.
Thank goodness Mother's gone, darling. Why does she have to point out certain things? Anyway, the good thing is that a substantial sum is safely nestled in our bank account, and we can soon start to clear off some of those debts.
Maybe we can even start thinking about extending Downcast Abbey, dear. I find it awfully cramped these days.
Yes, I must admit 57 rooms does seem a bit claustrophobic at times. And I certainly would like to shut up old Lord Mothchild, who constantly reminds me how large his stately home is. However, when I get my next tranche of funds from my late uncle's estate, I'll show him who's top dog around here.
Well, how on earth will you get your next tranche funds, darling?
Oh, don't you remember? The will said a further £300,000 will be triggered off if I bring honour to the family by becoming a member of the government.
A member of the government? I would not have thought, darling, despite your undoubted talents, that would be an easy thing to do.
Don't underestimate me, darling. I'm not stupid, you know. I aim to make my mark in Westminster rapidly. Prime Minister Asquith won't be able to turn a blind eye to my talents and qualities. In fact, I'll make sure he can't.
Fancy our lordship becoming an MP, Mr. Arson. What would you ever thought of that, ever?
He will have his work cut out, Mrs. Bratmore, that's for sure.
All that talking for hours on end.
Oh, I think he'll cope with that bit.
Well, it will give my head a toothache. All that worry and all those problems the country to sort out.
That's why it's better for women to leave that sort of thing to the men.
I couldn't agree more. Politics and voting is not for ladies.
I wish someone would tell that to Mrs. Bankhurst. That blasted woman is causing havoc, getting herself chained up and such like.
Disgraceful what some women will do for pleasure.
Yes, well, our government has enough on its hands as it is. Workers on strike, belligerence in Europe, disobedience in the Dominions, and now the crime wave. But I'm certain that Asquith's coalition knows how to deal with that. They have a new motto: tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime.
Oh, quite right too, Mr. Arson. After that horrible Dr. Crippen got up to all those horrible things, you know, I wouldn't even let my doctor, any of them, so much as put a stethoscope anywhere near my chest nowadays.
Oh, I don't think you need to.
How is that big new case going on? That one at the Old Bailey that you was reading about in his Lordship's Times last week?
Would you believe it? A hung jury.
Ah, what? All of them? Well, you're never ever going to get me on a jury if that's what can happen to you.
Oh, Mrs. Prattmore, what will we do with you? If you are ever worried about anything, you've just got to come along to my room and see your good friend, Mr. Arson.
Oh, well, it's good to know that we've got you keeping an eye on us all, and I don't think his lordship will ever manage without you. I got very upset with Todger today. He says that when it comes to his lordship, you are a right bootlicker.
Well, he's wrong there. I'm much higher than that.
Well, how did you get on at Westminster? Were they pleased with your maiden speech?
I think so, Mother. I think so.
Well, the Times here says some rather unkind words.
Oh, Mother, don't believe what journalists say. I can tell you this, Mother. The House of Commons was deadly hushed throughout my speech.
It says here that many of them fell asleep.
Oh, typical bad journalism. My fellow MPs, even my opposing MPs, were gripped and absorbed.
What were you speaking about, darling?
Sludge removal in the ditches of rural Yorkshire. It's an area that I happen to be an expert in.
You have never got your hands dirty in your life.
No, Mother, but I have led men who have, and that's the important thing. I think already my peers at Westminster can see that I have great leadership experience, far more so than some of the other idiots in the chamber. Do you know, there was some youngish chap, Winston Churchman, I think his name was? No. Churchill, that's it. That fellow didn't have a clue about leadership, public speaking, and decision-making. He won't last 5 minutes. Asquith is going to need a much higher calibre of politician.
Asquith? Did you speak to him, darling?
Yes, of course I did, darling. We shared a couple of scotches together in the Reform Club later that evening. I told him not to worry about the Kaiser and the rumours of the Hun preparing for war. I said if they did get troublesome, send the troops in straight away. We would whip that lot in a couple of days flat, and everything will be over.
Oh, darling, you really are masterful at times. You really are a brick.
I was thinking something similar myself.
Anyway, Mother, when you've finished with the Times, could you ask Todger to iron it and bring it to me in the smoking room?
I thought you'd fired the man.
No, Mother. I decided to teach him an even bigger lesson for his indiscretion. Rather than sack the man, I made him stay on, but at half his salary.
Oh, darling, that's magnificent. You really know how to manage staff.
I'm a firm believer in excellence in servant management. And sometimes one has to be ruthless. It's for their own good. And it's the only way the servants will learn to uphold our high standards. Anyway, must go. Oh, and could you ask Daisy to bring a tin of my tobacco to your room, to my room?
Fine as shag, Cuthbert.
Ooh, that would be good, darling.
It all worries me, you know. Asquith has the weight of the world on his shoulders. On top of that, some of the industrial workers are revolting.
Oh, that's a bit unkind, Lady Brawley. But yes, they can be very unpleasant at times. I'm sure in the circumstances, Lord Asquith will surely be grateful for someone of Cuthbert's calibre. I think your son could well prove to be Lord Asquith's dragoon.
Or his political buffoon. Come back, Gladstone, all is forgiven.
Oh, Mr. Mates, you're late back from the village. You're well wrapped up too. What have you got inside that coat of yours?
Oh, I've had to wear several layers of coats. Must keep the cold out, mustn't we?
But it's mid-August, Mr. Mates.
I'm very susceptible to even the most minute drop in temperature.
Anyway, What was you shopping for? The shop's closed hours ago.
Looking for a hat for my mother. It's her birthday shortly.
You really have a heart of gold, don't you, Mr. Mates? One day you're going to make some young lady a happy young lady. Very happy indeed, aren't you?
You're too kind, Fanny. That reminds me. I've got something to ask you.
Yes, Mr. Mates?
Well, it's...
Oh, come on, Mr. Mates. Don't be tongue-tied. Come out with it. What is it you want to ask me?
Fanny, would you see your way to... How would you like to buy a couple of cheap pheasants?
I do wish Todger would iron this Times a bit more carefully. Look, there's a little crease here, on the bottom of page 48. Oh, will the man never learn? I must say, I'm intrigued about this new ship, the Titanic.
Oh, let's go and see Father. Oh, let's go and see...
Ah, Lucy, my darling daughter, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you, Father. It's so good to see you relaxing after all your hard work recently in the election, and then travelling to London and back for your parliamentary business. But we're very proud of you, aren't we, Bunty?
Oh, yes, Lucy, but it is early days yet in Father's parliamentary career. I do fear for you, Daddy. Those men in the House of Commons can be very unpleasant and rude.
Oh, Bunty, you worry too much about things. Here, look at this, look. The Titanic, the world's largest ship and completely unsinkable. Soon to make its maiden voyage to New York.
Oh, Father, that looks jolly super. How exciting. Wouldn't it be absolutely spiffing if you could have a ride on it?
Oh, Lucy, you... Hang on. That's not such a bad idea. It will certainly make people sit up and take notice.
Oh, yes. It'll be in all the papers if you were on that maiden voyage.
But, Father, I feel uneasy about this ship. I've been studying the itinerary and the technical specifications. There are certain aspects of it...
Oh, Bunty, you really are a born worrier. That ship is totally unsinkable. Nothing in the world could sink it. And it's fast as well.
Just think, Father, if you were on that maiden voyage, your picture would be in all the newspapers.
Yes, Lucy, and I can also pop in to see the British ambassador in New York. That should get me in old Asquith's good books, and also show that I'm a trailblazer. Maybe I could even treat his nephew to a trip too.
But, Father, I really am most unhappy about this. I've looked at the numbers. Do you realise there are not enough lifeboats for the passengers?
Oh, Bunty, really, my dear, please don't be so foolish. The ship doesn't need any lifeboats at all, really. I have to go, no time to lose. I need to make sure I get tickets for that first trip.
Oh, Mrs. Prattmore, that dandelion and treacle tart smells delicious. Can I have a tiny slice?
A modest slice, Blodger, but not the king-size slice that you normally go for. We got to watch things now. What with rumours of a possible war in Europe, people are getting edgy and starting to talk about rationing. If they're right, then we had better get used to cutting down. I think his lordship is not likely to want his family to go without, so it's going to be to downstairs that's likely to cut our cloth according to our means.
I think you mean according to our means.
I know what I mean, Stacey, and don't you be so impudent. Otherwise, I'll give you a clap round the ear. Now, young, let's make yourselves for you, Saul. What's the latest news from upstairs?
My lips are sealed.
No comment.
Oh, come on, Daisy. Spill the greens. What's his lordship up to?
If you want to know, his lordship's getting rather excited about his journey tomorrow on that big ship.
Titus?
It's Titanic.
I was referring to his lordship. Carry on, Daisy.
Bunty's not at all happy about it, though. She's been on and on at his lordship, saying she gets bad feeling about it and that she ain't too keen on the journey the ship's going to take. There ain't even enough blimmin' lifeboats.
Oh, that don't sound so good to me, ducks.
I believe the itinerary takes it very much towards the north. Well, the seas there are very cold this time of year.
Oh, blimey, you've got a lot of watch out for them icicles and things.
I think you mean icebergs, Mrs. Prattmore.
That's what I said. Those big lumps of ice sticking out. Oh, well, you wouldn't catch me taking a trip on a boat like that at this time of year if it was going anywhere near those things.
Mrs. Prattmore, you really are a warrior, aren't you? According to his lordship, the ship's completely unsinkable. Nothing on earth could cause it to sink. That's why he's so excited about it. It's the first of its kind. Here, I actually overheard him talking to a solicitor friend, that Mr. Shaftmore.
Oh, you nosy thing, Daisy.
Yeah, but carry on.
Yes, do.
Mr. Shaftmore reckons that if his lordship gets himself in enough photographs as he gets on and off the ship, he could be in a lot of the newspapers, and that will help him in politics.
Well, high profile certainly can help a man get noticed.
Yes, it will make up for the time when he tripped head first into that pig slurry when he was visiting the farm in the village. I mean, that photo of them in Yorkshire Clarion didn't do him much good, did it?
No, that would all be forgotten if he's seen to be a pioneer passenger on the most famous ship in the world.
Yeah, and he told Mr. Shaftmore that he's treating the Prime Minister's nephew to a trip to see the British ambassador in New York.
Oh, that should get him in Asquith Library books.
I think you mean good books, Mrs. Prattmore. But go on, Daisy.
Well, I really shouldn't tell you any more, but I will. Bunty's not at all happy about it, but his lordship just won't listen to her.
Yes, his lordship always looks down on poor Bunty. But he's always got time for the other daughter, Lucy. Oh, personally, I can't stand the silly cow. She's a snooty little upstart who hasn't done a constructive thing in her life.
Yeah, but she's a good-looking lass, Todger.
And rather buxom too. That's about all she's got to offer. Methinks Lord and Lady Crankham are keen to marry her off if they can find the right match for her.
What? You mean a really good-looking young officer?
Oh, it don't matter what he looks like. What matters to them if he's got title, breeding and...
Lost some money.
Well, that's about it, Mrs. Prattmore.
Somehow the Crankhams always seem to bring good fortune to Downcast Abbey. That family are born lucky, that's what they is.
Come on, darling, time to get some sleep.
I'm sorry, darling. I just can't get out of my head Lord Mothchild bragging about the size of his estate and of how efficient, productive and profitable it is.
Oh, don't let that worry you, darling. Size is not everything.
Oh, I'm pleased to hear that.
We must count our blessings. We have a lot to be grateful for. It doesn't really matter what Lord Mothchild has.
It is of paramount importance, darling. The rate that he's building up his empire, he'll soon be controlling the entire Scankwell Valley and a great part of Yorkshire, and that won't go unnoticed by the Prime Minister for sure, and that could jeopardise future tranches of funds from my late uncle's trust fund.
Oh, I'm sure you'll come up with some magnificent scheme. You usually do.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say so, darling, but I really have to put my thinking cap on, or get a sudden change of fortune. The only bit of luck I've had in that respect is that I overheard Lord Mothchild in the Reform Club yesterday complaining that some scoundrel has been shooting his pheasants and running off with them.
What sort of villain would do that?
Look, Bunty, do you like my new dress? I said, Bunty, do you like my new dress? Please look at me, Bunty!
Oh, yes. It's lovely. You'll be the belle of the ball at Lord Mothchild's shindig later.
Oh, it'll be more than a shindig, Bunty. I've heard that Lord Mothchild's son Lawrence is looking for a new fiancée after he was jilted by that horrible German princess.
I don't think she actually jilted him. I think it was because the Germans are not popular at the moment. The Kaiser is not doing his family any favours, is he?
Oh, I don't know anything about politics and such like. Anyway, Lawrence Mothchild is extremely debonair and handsome. It'd be nice to dance with him. Maybe he's got a friend as well. Why don't you come along too, Bunty?
Oh, no, that's not my idea of a good night out.
Oh, you are such a stick in the mud, Bunty. You've always got your head buried in some book or a newspaper. What is it you're reading now?
Well, if you must know, it's an absolutely riveting account of King George's trip to Nepal. Describes here how he shot 21 tigers, 8 rhinoceroses, and 1 bear.
What? Did they all come at him at once?
No, Lucy. He didn't shoot them all in one go. But I admire his courage and his sense of adventure.
There's only one sense of adventure that I want a young man to have.
Oh, yes, I imagine you'd rather like your young men to be good swordsmen.
Sorry, I don't get it. Oh, you mean I should go for someone who fought in the Zulu Wars and Boer Wars, like Father?
Yes, Father, in the war. Anyway, fortunately, he's not likely to be called up if there's any more conflicts. He's, considered too old now.
Well, Father is still my hero. And he'll even be more so once he's gone on that lovely big new ship.
Well, I just hope he's not thief-ick. And that he's not too rough. I just can't imagine Father going up and down, up and down.
Nor can I. Which reminds me, I really am looking forward to Lord Mothchild's ball this evening.
His Nibs is probably dining at the captain's table as we speak. No doubt after a day of snoozing on the top deck.
Yes, I'm sure my husband has acquainted himself well with the captain and the other dignitaries. He really does have such great charisma and personality. Fame and fortune just seems to stick to him.
Yes, like all that pig slurry last month.
Oh, please, Lady Brawley, don't mention that again. We're trying to put that behind us.
So were the pigs.
Lucy has been so excited about her father being on that trip. But Bunty has gone very quiet these last few days. Still, I'm sure she'll be okay.
She certainly had a strange look on her face when she waved her father off from here. I don't think you should underestimate that girl. Oh, here she comes now. Oh, no, I don't believe it. She's being frog-marched in here by her father.
What happened?
I'm fuming. Asquith's nephew and I never even got on the ruddy ship.
Why not?
Were they worried that you still smelt of pig slurry?
Mother, this is no joke.
But, darling, didn't you get there in time?
We got there in perfectly good time. I even had a chance to speak to Captain Edward Smith, who had arranged for us to not only be on the captain's tail at mealtimes, but to sit close to the band during the entertainment. But then, just as everybody was getting ready to leave from Southampton, I went through my wallet and I couldn't find the damn ticket. As I frantically searched, all the other passengers were getting on board. In the end, the tickets were nowhere to be seen. I had a big argument with the ruddy steward, asked them to get Edward Smith, who I felt sure would have enabled us to embark without tickets, but the ship was so damn big they couldn't reach him in time. So in the end, the RNS Titanic set sail without us. Oh, Asquith's nephew was not amused, and nor would his uncle be. I doubt the Prime Minister will ever forgive me. When I got back here, the first person to greet me was our godforsaken daughter, Bunty.
But, Father, I am really so sorry I hid your ticket. I meant well. I felt so uneasy about everything.
Uneasy? I'll give you uneasy. Here we are, on the 15th of April, 1912, and I should be enjoying myself on that fine ship, 4 days into my crossing, just south of Newfoundland, and instead I am stuck here, back at Downcast Abbey. Bunty, you'll be the death of me.
Thank you, lords and ladies. There will now be a short interval where you can purchase teas and coffees from the coffee lounge to your right, or soft drinks and alcoholic drinks from our licensed bar to the rear of the hall.
Bottoms up! Bottoms up!
Hear, hear, darling, hear, hear.
Well, I don't see that there's much worth celebrating. We may have won the war, but at what a terrible cost.
Yes, you're right there, Mother. Our piggery has hardly made a profit these past few years, and my golf handicap's gone completely to pot. But no point in dwelling on all of that. I think 1919 is going to be a wonderful year for all of us who live at Downcast.
I hope so, darling. Let us hope the new Prime Minister has the good sense to put you in his cabinet at last.
I think if Lloyd George had any sense, he'd have put you in his wardrobe instead. And locked the door.
Mother, that was uncalled for.
Well, you hardly did his predecessor, Lord Asquith, any favours by encouraging him to go to war with the Hun. I seem to remember you told him it would only last a few days, and, to quote your very own words, "We will boot the Kaiser's wobbly fat backside out of Western Europe by next weekend." Oh, an understatement if ever I heard one. Ever thought of taking up fortune-telling?
Oh, Lady Brawley, you do underestimate dear Cuthbert's qualities. Lord Asquith recognised your talents when you showed him such great judgment in making sure his nephew was not on that Titanic ship.
Oh, that was nothing. Just a shrewd bit of judgment, I guess. It was no surprise that his successor backed me, despite totally unwarranted criticism from others. Don't forget, it was me he asked to accompany the Foreign Secretary, the Marquis of Kedleston, on his diplomatic visit to Germany and Italy last week.
He probably needed someone to carry his bags.
Only one or two, Mother. I think, though, I very much proved my worth to the government. I even had tea and biscuits with some of the old European aristocracy.
Oh, were they Bourbons?
No, digestives. I also forged some very important political friendships while I was out there. Two young fellows in particular I got on well with. A young German chappie by the name of Adolf. Charm personified. And in Italy I got very chummy with another bright young fellow. Benito, I think his name was. Mark my words, those two lads will go far. I told Lloyd George I believe we can work with these two young trailblazers to ensure peace and prosperity for Europe, right up to the end of this century and beyond.
Oh, darling, that's wonderful.
Actually, I think Lloyd George quite likes me. He even invited me to pop into some of his cabinet meetings.
Yeah, to be his tea boy?
No, Mother. He actually has whiskey with 2 lumps of ice. At least Winston doesn't get asked to do that. I see it as a small step up the ranks.
Tell me, darling, why do people call him the goat? Is it because he likes climbing Welsh hills and things?
I doubt he'll have time for that. He's too busy popping in and out of bed.
Oh, the poor chap. I didn't know he was ill that often.
I don't think that's what Mother meant, darling. Frankly, I often wonder how he finds time for any other activities. He does so much talking.
There's nothing worse than a Welsh windbag.
Oh, yes, there is. A Yorkshire windbag.
Oh, that is rather unkind, Lady Brawley.
Well, Cuthbert, you had better get used to the rough and tumble. Lord Beaverbrook tells me he's thinking of again promoting your old sparring partner, Winston Churchill.
Oh, no, not that idiot. He will be totally out of his depth.
Surely Mr. Lloyd George would further recognise your own qualities and judgment before long now. Indeed, your growing popularity.
Well, I've certainly shown I've got what it takes to win the right people over, and the ability to mix with people of all nationalities and classes. It's a gift that I am humble enough to acknowledge.
Yes, darling. You know, Lady Brawley, the staff here in Downcast Abbey simply worship the ground your son works on.
I'll swing for that rotten blighter, I will. His lordship is rotten to the core.
Yeah, that's right. He ain't half a nasty piece of work. A few swings for him, Mrs. P. I'll have to swing for him twice.
Ladies, please, what is all this about?
He's cut our wages yet again, Mr. Mates. I know times has been hard, but I don't see him going without much. It's always us down here in the kitchen what suffer.
Now, children, no more of this mischief-making. Mr. Arson won't allow any talk of disloyalty down here. Get on with your work before his lordship docks your wages even further.
Yes, Mr. Todger. What's that you got in your hand? It looks very important.
Oh, it certainly is. It's a personal letter for Lord Crankham, and he's not going to be at all happy about the contents of it.
Isn't that supposed to be confidential or something? You seem to have read it already.
Oh, yes, well, and the envelope accidentally became unsealed, and the letter slipped out, unfortunately. I could not help but see some of the contents before I put it back in the envelope and resealed it.
Well, who exactly is it from, then?
You can trust us, Mr. Todger.
I cannot tell you. Confidentiality is my middle name.
Really?
Oh, come on, Mr. Todger. We won't spill the greens.
I'm not telling you, and that's final. End of subject.
There'll be an extra large slice of tart for you when you get back.
It's from Lord Crankham. His cousin, Clarence Crankham.
Well, what's so significant about that?
He's been dead for 4 years.
Ooh.
Darling, I'm as taken aback as you are. All the information that I got back from France, on good authority, was that old cousin Clarence had come a cropper in the Battle of the Somme.
So, he's not dead after all?
No, it seems he's alive and well. Oh, what terrible bad luck.
Oh, darling, how could you say that? What has become of my very lovable, kind-hearted and sympathetic husband?
He's about to lose his entire bloody fortune. That's what's become of him. My late uncle's will was left to the eldest surviving cousin. When we thought Clarence had copped it, I inherited everything. Now Clarence is alive, it will all go to him, just because he is 10 ruddy years older than me. Oh, why couldn't the Hun have been a better shot?
I never thought I'd hear a son of mine speak in such unchristian terms.
Mother, Clarence is not only the true heir to this estate, he happens to detest everything about our side of the family. Plus, he's a philanthropist. He's likely to take all this of us and give it away, and that would include your grace and favour apartment, Mother.
The bastard!
Uncle Clarence, is he really still alive? I thought you told the solicitor he was dead, Father.
Well, he was dead. Well, what I mean was, we all thought he was dead.
I think what you really mean, Father, is that you hoped he was dead. You had assumed he was dead and had told your late uncle solicitor accordingly.
Bunty, that's not fair. Your father was genuinely concerned when he thought his cousin had gone missing. He was absolutely distraught.
Yes, so distraught that he couldn't wait to tell his solicitor. And he downed a complete bottle of Moët de Chandon that evening.
What happened to that company he once ran? We buy any horse?
He galloped off with the proceeds, then got a twinge of conscience and left for Europe to give it all away.
I used to love Uncle Clarence, so dashing and debonair. I was always boasting to my school friends that we had a handsome man in the family.
As well as your father, dear?
Oh, yes, Mother, as well as Father.
If I remember correctly, he was very keen on studying libertarianism, social ownership, cooperative enterprises, participatory economics, and decentralised mutualism.
Yes, he was. An absolute crackpot. His late father should have sent him to a lunatic asylum years ago. That's probably why he jaunted off the way he did.
What's decentralism, Father?
Oh, it's
Well, actually, Lucy, it's the avocation of a society wherein each person...
That's enough, Bunty! Wash your mouth out! Come on, you two. It's about time you got on with your day. Lucy, off to your sewing room. Bunty, you can finish tidying up all those ridiculous books in your study. It really pains me to think that a daughter of mine should prove such a letdown.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Grandma. Good night, Father. Good night, Grandma.
Good night, dear.
Cuthbert, or shall I call you Lord Crankham? Or would you prefer Little Cranky? My dear cousin, the immodest man with lots to be modest about. Aunt Griselda, why, you certainly don't look 90.
I'm not.
Oh, sorry, I meant 85.
I'm not that either.
Louise, you haven't changed a bit.
Oh, don't you think so?
No, I'm afraid you haven't. But never mind, eh?
Clarence, how nice to see you.
It's good to see you all.
We're so pleased you survived the war after all. Aren't we, Mother? Aren't we, darling?
There were times in Flanders when I never thought I'd get back to Blighty. I had a right basin full. Frankly, we are lucky that I did not cop it in the trenches.
Oh, extremely lucky.
We are brimming with delight.
I was captured 3 times by troops of Han infantry, who chucked me in a cell and locked me up. But Fritz and his men couldn't keep a good man down. I escaped each time.
You make Harry Houdini sound like a stay-at-home.
And the frogs, bless their little cotton gaiters, helped me get out of the country. Then the Ruskies found me and tenderly nursed me back to health and invited me back to their charming country. They are not at all like those Cossacks, you know.
You make them sound like a flock of angelic cherubs.
Anyway, when I eventually returned to the UK and I went to visit my Aunt Cordelia, she told me about Uncle's will. So I went to see his solicitors, Titchfield, Horrocks and Bottomley, who gave me the wonderful news. I couldn't believe that my luck was really in. I will tell you something. When I was in Russia, I got to know some very interesting young politicians. They've got some super ideas on how to change society.
Yes, I have heard.
They're doing very well in Russia at it now, you know. Lenin and his friend Tolstoy seem like swats. But they've got some marvellously spiffing ideas. And now I can put those ideas into practice over here.
Good Lord.
And I will certainly improve things for the servants and staff. But I will tell them that next week. So please keep that to yourselves. Yes, there will be some magnificent changes around here.
Oh, dear.
Oh, heck.
But now I think I'll get myself a good night's sleep so that I can wake up refreshed tomorrow, ready to put some of these plans into practice. I will, though, pay my respects to Nanny Grabham before I go up. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yes, good night. What a ghastly man. Such a big letdown for great Uncle Willie. To think we're related to him as well. And I have never forgiven Clarence for changing his title to the Earl of Egham.
Yes, Mother. That was in very poor taste.
Darling, what are we going to do about him?
Don't worry, dear. I'll think of something.
Well, you'd better be pretty quick about it. Within a few days this place will be overrun by the Scankwell Valley Miners' Cooperative. The servants will rule the roost. We'll all be slaving away in the workhouse, and you will be heading for a salt mine in Siberia.
That's the best rump I've seen since Glenside romped home in the Grand National.
Oh my goodness, it's you, Mr. Clarence. I'd heard rumours you'd come back from the dead. Just how did you get away from the Western Front then?
After I'd given the Kaisers a lot to slip, I was so exhausted I collapsed headfirst into a narrow trench. And then some Russian revolutionaries somehow got me out of it.
You were grabbed by the Bolsheviks?
No, they pulled me up by my legs. One day I will repay that country.
Anyway, I'm busy bathing his lordship's latest, baby Ponsonby.
Well then, let's have a good look at young Ponsonby. Oh my, he's ugly. Gosh, he's got a split forehead.
Hold on, let me turn him over and put him the right way up. There, what do you think of him now?
The poor little mite is not exactly blessed with good looks, is he? Why, I've seen better looking tanks in the trenches than that lad's face. So, how do you get this young fellow off to sleep then?
Easy. Every night, 1 cup of warm Horlicks, with a dash of Dr. Collis Brown's cough mixture, a spoonful of silver figs, and a wee drop of brandy. He sleeps like a top, never coughs, and is as regular as clockwork.
My goodness, Nanny. This young fellow is so lucky to have you.
Anyway, what are you doing in these parts?
More to the point, my dear. What are you doing on the weekend? Fancy a nice trip to the Palais Theatre in Hull? The Arthur Lloyd trio are on, and little Charlie.
I had enough trouble with your little Charlie. I don't need another one. You're up after something, you are.
I certainly am, Nanny. But besides you, my gorgeous, glamorous, glowing gazelle of a woman, I'd like to know just a little more about how things are here at Downcast Abbey.
I knew it! I knew it! It's not me you really want, it's information.
Oh, Nanny, as if I would use you in such a way.
Yes, you very well would. I wouldn't put anything past you, you old rogue.
Just think, if you could only just put me in the picture on a few things. Maybe I can treat you to a nice Mediterranean cruise.
Cruise? I wouldn't even trust you on a rowing boat down the Crutchworth Canal.
Come on, Nanny. You only live once.
Well, in your case, you seem to have lived twice. Anyway, I'd better get on with my work. This little fellow needs putting to bed.
I know how he feels. Look, Nanny, although I cannot say much just at the moment, I can tell you that there will be some very big changes around here. I won't have you doing this work much longer.
Good night.
Oh, that was a lovely supper, Mrs. P. Best enjoy it while we can. There are many changes in this world, and a few of them are going to hit us pretty quickly.
I find
that frightening. I heard them in the village saying that they're now giving votes to women. Well, they're over 30, I think.
Well, you should qualify for 2 votes then.
You cheeky blighter. What's your tongue, Mr. Mates?
He didn't mean any harm, Mrs. P.
Yes, there's certainly some astounding news in his lordship's Times this morning.
Oh, indeed, some so-called genius is introducing what he calls talking pictures. Idiotic. They'll never catch on.
No. Give me Rudolph Valentino any day.
Mr. Arson says that musicals are the only future for entertainment.
Indeed I do, Daisy, indeed I do. Mark my words, they will never close down.
I heard in the village that some posh chap up in Bogsworth Moor has got himself one of those things they call a radio set. Apparently, you can hear voices coming out of some sort of contraption in the corner of a room.
Have a day off, Mrs.
I think, Mrs. P, you're letting your imagination run wild.
Well, actually, I think that Mrs. P might be correct in what she's heard. But it will be proved to be a load of old tosh.
No, I can't imagine people wanting to listen to voices from a little box. It'll be as much a flop as that daft idea that some crackpot inventors come up with about producing sliced bread.
Oh, God. And the idiot who reckons he created a pop-up toaster.
Anyway, I'm off to bed. It's nearly 9:30.
Yes, well past your bedtime.
Here, let's have a bit of a sing-song now Mr. Arson's gone.
Good idea, Fanny. Anyone know any good wartime numbers?
Oh, I certainly do. It goes like this. The German soldiers crossed the line, parlez-vous. The German soldiers crossed the line, parlez-vous. The dirty Germans crossed the line.
Sorry to disturb you at your supper, Todger. Can I have a word with you, my good man, please?
Yes, of course, my lord.
Oh, this must be very urgent.
Todger, I thought you should be the first to know. Downcast Abbey is facing a very grave crisis. Indeed, our whole family are facing a crisis, and it will affect all of you downstairs as well. Your jobs, your livelihoods, your place in society...
And all your wealth and your possessions?
What do you mean?
Oh, it's just my intuition, my lord. I somehow have a sixth sense about disturbing news. The vibes from that envelope that I delivered to you last week, added to the jaunty whistling of your cousin Clarence Crankham, as I led him to his quarters, told me that something was in the air.
Well, yes, something is very much in the air. Clarence could soon inherit Downcast Abbey, and I can tell you this in strict confidence. He intends firing the lot of you. So you must all work together to save the day.
My goodness, firing us all? Oh, now I understand what Nanny Grabham meant. Well, you can totally rely on my discretion and my steadfast loyalty, sir.
Then you had better come along and join myself, Lady Crankham and Lady Brawley. We're going to form an urgent war cabinet. Europe may now be at peace, but for us, the real battle has only just begun.
Ah, Farmer Snodgrass, how kind of you to come so quickly.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Lady Brawley. I always considers it an honour to be called into your very presence, ma'am. Permit me to show you something. Look at this, just for you.
My goodness, what a whopper. Thank you, Snodgrass.
Oh, don't mention it, ma'am. It certainly is a real beauty, isn't it, eh? I'm very proud of it. The finest pheasant for 50 miles. To make it easier for Mrs. P, I've already plucked each and every feather off.
Thank you, Snodgrass. I doubt if Todger could have done that. He is certainly no pheasant plucker.
Oh, he certainly isn't, ma'am.
Yes. Anyway, I've been thinking about how hard you work on our farm.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We certainly worked very hard indeed. You know, today me and my apprentice boys have been clearing out the pigs. Oh, my goodness, they is a smelly lot.
Oh, that's youngsters for you. I feel sure that under your tutelage...
Also, ma'am, I've been busy inseminating our 2 prize cows.
Really? Where on earth did you do that?
In a cow shed, of course.
Oh. Where did you hang your trousers?
What, ma'am?
Oh, never mind. Anyway, I thought as you and your colleagues have been working so hard on the estate during that dreadful war, you all deserve a special treat. There may be an extra celebration as well. You've probably heard that Lord Crankham's cousin Clarence, the Earl of Egham, has paid us a visit.
Oh, yes, ma'am. We on the farm is all excited about that. Be wonderful to see Mr. Clarence again. He always seemed to relate to us workers and our pigs and cows.
Well, how would you and your colleagues like to celebrate this wonderful turn of events by inviting Clarence to join you all for a lovely celebration drink or two at the Pig Slurry Arms in the village?
Oh, he's banned from that establishment, my lady.
Oh, yes. I remember hearing something about you causing a rumpus because you did not win some hairy legs competition there on New Year's Eve.
It wasn't that, ma'am. It's just I did not think it right that a barmaid should have been allowed to enter that competition in the first place. Yeah. How about we go to Dog and Bullock? It's much nearer than any other public house, and trouble is the landlord there is a bit possessive about his pretty young fiancée.
Is he? Well, don't let that put you off. I think that it is exactly the right establishment for you all to go to. I must think of your little legs after all that hard work with the cows.
Oh, ma'am, that would be absolutely wonderful, but why don't you ask him yourself?
Oh, he'd much rather enjoy a drink with you, the servants and your agricultural chappies, because he's so modest and unassuming. I thought the invitation coming from you would be much more appropriate, and I feel sure he would be intrigued to hear more about your latest activities on the farm.
Well, it is a lovely idea, ma'am, but I ain't got no money spare to do it with.
Oh, absolutely no problem, my good man. Here, take this.
My goodness, £10 old! I could probably all get us pretty merry on that.
And why not, Snodgrass, why not? The main thing is that you all enjoy yourselves, especially dear Clarence.
Mrs. P, can I ask you a question, please?
Of course you can, my dear. Now, Fanny, what's it all about?
It's about possibly courting a certain man.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yes, I'm only too happy to help you. If you don't act soon, you'll be left on the shelf or have little choose from leftovers or old has-beens. After all, we don't want you landing up with someone like Mr. Mates, do we? Anyway, who is this certain gentleman?
It's Mr. Mates.
Oh, what? Oh, well then, come to think of it, Fanny, maybe you would suit each other. Has he asked you out yet?
No, but I want to be prepared when he does.
Well, take my advice from a wise old head like mine. Do not flaunt yourself. Be proper. None of this showing any glimpse of your ankle or anything like that.
Oh, no, Mrs. P. I wouldn't dare do that.
Oh, sensible girl. You see, men get all their hot blood fizzing through their corpuscles. And when they see too much of a young lady's autonomy, you know. I mean, there's too much of that sort of thing going on these days. Just like those shocking magazines in the newsagents. They show a whole ankle.
Disgraceful.
Why, Mr. Arson even caught one of his apprentices with a large collection of those ghastly publications.
What did he do?
He confiscated all the magazines. He still has them locked up in his room to this day. I don't know what's become of this world, I really don't. Why, in 100 years' time, they might even have newspapers showing women exposing an old calf. Pornographic, that's what it is, pornographic.
Shocking. Anyway, Mrs. P, what shall I do if Mr. Mates asks me out?
Say you'll think about it.
Does that work?
Well, it always stood me in good stead, Fanny.
Did the young man ask you out again after that?
No, but it did show that I wasn't just anybody's.
So no young men did take any liberties with you?
No. Nobody ever did, no. More to the point, make sure that whatever man you do give yourself to, if you ever do, has lots of security to offer you.
Oh, yes, Mrs. P. I'll certainly bear that in mind.
Or make sure you do. It's important that a young man, or, in Mr. Mates's case, an older man, keeps his feet on the ground. I remember Mr. Arson warning young Daisy about that musical chap that she once went out with. Charlie was his name. He had all them fancy ideas about trying to get into films. Dressed as a tramp with a little moustache, baggy garb, a stick and a bowler hat. He wanted to try his luck in America, of all places, and he wanted to take our Daisy with him. Well, Mr. Arson soon put Daisy wise on that. And, of course, he was dead right. I doubt if we'll ever hear of that Mr. Chaplin ever again. So, you be careful, Fanny.
Thank you so much, Mrs. P. Where would I be without you?
That's it, my girl. Just remember my words. The grass is not always less prickly the other side of the fence.
about that German scientist, Lucy?
What, that Frank Einstein fellow?
No, Lucy. His name is Albert Einstein. He has come out with a new theory of general relativity that the light from another star will be bent by the sun's gravity.
What an idiot! That's absolutely stupid. The man must be a nitwit and a charlatan. Father says that sort of person of low intelligence really should be locked up in a lunatic asylum.
Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile.
You're cheerful today, Fanny. What's got into you?
Mr. Mate.
What?
He asked me out.
Oh, took his time. 7 years.
Well, he's a very cautious man, he is, and he's had a lot of bad luck in his life.
Yes, I heard about the sudden death of one of his previous employers, Earl Sprocket.
Dreadful. A medieval bronze chamber pot falling on his head from a great height. But it was empty.
Yes. What a stroke of good fortune for old Earl Sprocket, eh?
It was.
So, where did your Mr. Mates work after that?
The Duke of Clacton in Essex. He says he really liked it there, but the Duke seemed to be losing money.
What? Bad investments?
No, his money just seemed to be going missing.
Extraordinary.
Because Mr. Mates is so considerate, he felt it best to leave rather than see the Duke struggle to pay his wages.
Oh, sounds a splendid fellow. So then he come up here to Downcast?
Well, not straight away. He says he took some months off to look after his late aunt until she died of food poisoning.
Sounds like you got yourself a real fine fella there, Fanny. I'll have to get to know him a lot better myself.
Pack up your troubles in your old kit bag and smile, smile, smile.
Gertie, my lass, we has a special guest here at Dog and Bullet tonight. Clarence Crankham, the Earl of Eggham's back. Farmer Snodgrass told me he's bringing him here.
Farmer Snodgrass? That smelly old chap.
Well, he might be smelly, but he's kept us going in Sunday lunches for some time. Mind you, I'm now getting sick to death of that ruddy pheasant meat. Last one I ate had 2 bullets in it. Anyway, Farmer Snodgrass told me that Lady Brawley has given him a right tidy sum to celebrate Clarence Crankham's homecoming. I'm expecting quite a few of them being here tonight. I'm okay with that normal customers. I can usually manage serving both of them myself. But tonight, there might be as many as 6 or 7, so I'm going to need Anne with it all. If you can see your way to help him, I'd be most grateful. And there's something in it for you.
Oh, really?
I'm making no promises, but let's just see what I can tot up at end of evening. Now, remember this. Don't charge him normal prices. Snodgrass is so ruddy short-sighted he won't be able to count change properly. Just you double prices on everything, except the scotch. If any of him wants a measure or 2 of Scabby and Fetlock's finest Yorkshire malt whisky, you treble the price. To save you working that out means 3 times normal.
I'm always in favour of that sort of thing.
Which reminds me, you play your cards right tonight, and if we makes a few bob, I'll treat you to day in Bridlington.
Bridlington? The seaside? Oh, that'd be grand.
Oh, when I gets to seaside, I don't mess about. Straight in sea, that's me. When I was in Scarborough last year, whilst others looked on, I was in that sea with just my trousers and vest on, plus my handkerchief on my head, of course. Tell you, lass, I paddled for a good 2 hours that day.
Oh, you are adventurous, Ted.
Nice of you to say so, lass. I'll tell you what, I'll even treat you to a nice seafood supper from those fishmongers on the seafront. Cockles and whelks, the lot.
Oh, by gum, that'd be great. I'm keen on winkles and mussels too.
On second thoughts, we'll go to the pier and have roast beef and Yorkshire pud. Oh, here comes Father Snodgrass now.
How can you tell? You can't see through the window from here.
No, but I can bloody well smell, can't I? Yeah, it's him all right. Farmer Snodgrass, it's right good to see you. Oh, Clarence Crankham, this is a pleasure. Do come in, sir, and sit yourself down. As a goodwill gesture, because I'm so pleased to see you again, we're going to do you all some special low prices on drinks tonight. Isn't that right, lass?
Oh, yes, Lord Clarence. Everything will be coming down for you tonight, sir.
Well, how did it go?
It couldn't have gone better, Mother. Couldn't have gone better.
Oh, darling, trust you to come up trumps.
He usually comes up trumping. Anyway, what exactly happened?
Well, as instructed by you, Snodgrass took the servants and farmhands and cousin Clarence to the Dog and Bullock. As instructed by me, we kept arson out of it for obvious reasons. They bought a good number of drinks, far more than Clarence has ever drunk before.
Go on.
And being the gentleman he is, he didn't wish to offend them, so he drank it all. Then next part of our master plan went into operation. Todger and mates just happened to be popping in for a quick pint of Ditchburn Slagpeep Special Mild Ale. Then, of course, they were asked to join them. As planned, Todger told Clarence that Ted often got offended if people ignored his fiancée, Gertie Buock. Then, when Clarence's back was turned, mates slipped some aphrodisiac into Clarence's pint of Skagwell and Bogsworth prize-winning extra strong stout. It wasn't long before our Clarence was not only totally pie-eyed, but he was boggle-eyed as well. And he immediately had the hots for Gertie. Well, his hands went everywhere. He was like a hot octopus doing the foxtrot. Apparently, when Ted saw this, he went berserk.
Wonderful.
He chased Clarence out of the public bar and right across the valley. If it hadn't been for Todger, mates and Snodgrass, I reckon the landlord would have succeeded where the Hun didn't.
So what happened then?
Well, our man Todger slipped Ted 20 whole pounds to keep quiet about it, but on the express understanding that Ted was to keep on threatening Clarence. That bit worked a treat. Ted told Clarence that if he ever set foot in Skankwell again, he would personally put part of Clarence's anatomy into a vice and tighten it as hard as he could.
That's criminal. But an excellent idea all the same.
But I can't see how that actually helped our cause.
Oh, my darling. I didn't get to where I am without being very shrewd indeed. As prearranged, Todger took care of Clarence overnight. He gave him a sleeping draught that mates had procured, and then, the following morning, mates arranged for cousin Clarence to be taken and put on the first train out of Slagwell Moor Station. By now, he's on the fast train to King's Cross. I doubt if we'll ever see him again.
What about his entitlement? He's not going to give that up, is he?
He's already given it up, darling.
What do you mean?
Well, the final part of our plan worked absolutely to perfection. Whilst Clarence was still in a total haze of inebriation and wooziness last night, he poured out his heart to Todger and told him he really didn't think he deserved any wealth and possessions at all.
Yes, he probably said that because he was totally blotto. And he will probably regret having said that when he sobers up.
Indeed he may, darling, indeed he may. But by then it will be too late. You see, Todger got him to sign a statement, relinquishing all his entitlement. I shall shortly be sending the statement off to my late uncle's solicitors, Titchfield, Horrocks and Bottomley, and I think that's the last we'll ever hear of dear old cousin Clarence.
Seems that justice has been done.
Indeed it has, Mother. Indeed it has. Now, I've just got to have a few words with Todger, and then I think I'll turn in for the night. Good night, Mother. I'll see you shortly, darling. Maybe my special nightcap will be in order.
Yes, darling. I look forward to that.
I doubt if it will still fit him.
I have to say, Todger, that you, mates and Snodgrass and the rest certainly rose to the challenge. Under my strategic direction, of course.
Of course, sir.
So now we can all carry on with our lives and everything will be just as it was.
Well, not quite, sir.
What do you mean?
Well, sir, there is the, little matter of the pay rise for the staff.
Pay rise for the staff? That wasn't part of our plan.
But it's part of my plan, sir. I think 2 bob extra a week is in order. For all of us. With perhaps a special bonus for myself of, £5 whole pounds.
5 whole pounds? On top of a 2 bob pay rise for the entire staff? I'm not made of money, you know.
Well, you certainly got a lot more than you would have if we hadn't taken care of your cousin Clarence.
I'm not going to stand for this. Your reward is that I have saved all of you from getting sacked. Now you can all carry on within the great security that I give you here at the Downcast Abbey estate.
An estate that could, of course, still be at risk.
What are you trying to say?
I still have that signed statement from your cousin Clarence. maybe I could listen to my conscience and put that statement into the nice roaring fire that we have in the kitchen. I think you understand what I'm trying to say, Your Lordship.
Oh, very well. Here, take this money, and I'll take that statement. Thank you very much.
There you are, sir. It has been an absolute pleasure dealing with you, sir. I am humbled indeed by your integrity.
And I'm humbled by yours, Todger.
I'm very sorry to disturb you, my lord, but it is urgent and rather delicate.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Arson, what is it? Now, come on, man, spit it out.
It's the Chief Police Commissioner, Sir Neville Macready.
Oh, for heaven's sake, what does he want? Are his wretched bobbies going on strike again?
No, my lord. He is here to arrest you. The body of Clarence Crankham has been found with 4 rounds of Boer War infantry rifle buckshot in his buttocks.
Oh, hell.
Good Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a fantastic audience. We really appreciate it. We would like to thank you and also Rob Chandler, James and all the other people who've put in sterling efforts this evening to help us with this. So thank you again.
Downcast Abbey by Geoff Buckingham. You heard Olivia Briley as Lady Brawley, Patricia Williamson as Mrs. Prattmore, Robert A. Hardy as Lord Crankham, Sue Dye as Lady Crankham, Tom Briley as Todger, Phil Bower as Count Trumpmore and Ted Basham, Christy Wright as Lucy Crankham and Gertie Bucock, Sue Ford as Bunty Crankham, Robin Whitbread as Cousin Clarence Crankham, Roberta Jack as Nanny Grabham, Stephanie Bradshaw as Daisy, Graham Briley as Mr. Mates, Andy Brown as Mr. Arson, Geoff Buckingham as Farmer Snodgrass, and Charlotte Darn as Fanny. The music was composed by Mike Flood. Downcast Abbey was written and directed by Geoff Buckingham. It was a Manor Players production, Radio Way production by Robert Chandler.